So we were looking a few minutes ago at this sculpture, Ex-Slave Garden, which I very much consider as the first work to contemplate when you enter the exhibition, as I think in many ways from this image you can actually pull all the other works from the show. And I know I've been telling you that Jafa works with image and I'm starting with sculpture, so that's a bit of a paradox. But I want to move from Ex-Slave Garden to Big Wheel. Why? Because the relief that we were contemplating on the back of the sculpture, of the back of the Ex-Slave Garden, reappears here. And for me, it's very interesting to see how Arthur Jafa, from one image, is actually developing an entire body of work, which is a way of working that we are going to see over and over again in his work, which is actually quite programmatic when you look at it this way. So we were looking at this relief on the back of Slave Garden. This relief reappears here on this big wheel. Again, if I look at the big wheel, it's a little bit like what we were talking about when we looked at monster. The big wheel itself is a monster. It's a scary object. It's bigger than the tires we know. It's bigger than us. And when we are in front of it, at close range, we might feel a little bit of fear, physical fear that eventually this entity, this body, could actually fall on us and hurt us. We're talking about the texture of the back. When you look at this object, this sculpture, this black texture is there. It's not, again, by chance that Jafa chose a tire. But this scary black entity is in chains. And I don't need to explain it. It's actually quite a direct visual effect there. There is no metaphor. You have in front of you a black body in chain. At the center of the big wheel, you have another sculpture, which is actually very close to the back of the slave. This relief made also out of plastic, which is at the center of the sculpture. It goes back to the back. It's expanded for the back, but it has also this kind of liquid quality. And I'm very interested in the liquid texture that appears over and over again in Jafa's film. We'll see it in the photos, we'll see it in other works. Why water? Well, he was born in the Mississippi. So when you know the Mississippi, it's an overwhelming body of water that could be actually quite scary. But the liquid aspect for me, the liquid quality, goes back even to the history of slavery. And this notion of the middle passage. The middle passage is this notion that during the slave trade, when the slaves were in the boat going from Africa to America, when they were going from one continent to the other, some slaves decided that they wouldn't submit themselves to slavery and decided that they would rather die than being slave, and they jumped the boat. And this idea of the middle passage is this passage in the middle of the ocean where black body disappears. Actually, there is a fantastic book right now called The Water Dancer that is also about this idea of finding in water, in rivers, in ocean, a way out of slavery, another passage to freedom.